Good morning, Year 8. I hope you are all well and looking forward to the weekend. Welcome to your solutions video for the sheet called 6.1.3. So this sheet was set on Monday, on Monday the 27th of April and was due in today. So please go through, mark it as you go along and correct any that you didn't quite get correct. So the first one says, write in figures 15,603 units. So we'll start with our 15 because we know that's the very first thing that it has been kind of said. So we've got our 15. Then it says after thousands does come 100. So then we know that we've got a 6 here because that's in our 100 column. But after hundreds comes tens. Now it doesn't say we've got any tens, so we're going to have to pop a 0 in there. But it does say we've got 3 units, which comes next, okay? So that should be your final answer, 15,603. Next one then says 6,709 units. So again, we'll start with our 6 because that's our 6 is our start point because we've got our 6,000. After thousands does come 100, so we're going to write our 7 because we've got 700s. But as with the last one, the next one should be tens, but we don't have any tens, so we're going to have to write a 0 there. But our last one is units, and we've got 9 of those, so we're going to pop our 9 in there. Okay? Right then, so the next one says, list the factors of 42. So factors are pairs of numbers that make up this number. So the first pair that's always super easy is 1 and 42, because 1 times 42 is, of course, 42. Okay, now the next one, this is an even number, so we can definitely have 2, can't we? We can have 2 and 21, because we know that 2 times 21 also equals 2. Okay, so we really kind of need 2 more. So we can also try and divide this one by 3. So if we write a 3 here, and if we tried 42 divided by 3, we would get 14. So actually 3 times 14 does equal 42 as well. And our last one that we know is good, so 4 doesn't go into it. 5 doesn't go into it because it doesn't end in a 0 or a 5. But does 6 go into it? Well, it does, because 6 times 7 is 42. So we should have 8 factors of this number: 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, and 6 and 7. Okay, so the next one. So as I always say, we should start off with 1 and 38, because that's an obvious one, isn't it? Now, we know that 38 is an even number, so 2 is definitely going to go into it. So 2 times what is 38? Well, we've just got to halve that one. So we know that 2 and 19 make 38. But actually, we could go through all the other numbers, so 3, 4, 5, and we actually wouldn't find any more factors. So that is all the factors of 38. So there we are. We've got 1 and 38, and we've got 2 and 19. Moving on then. So this time we've got 734. And we want to times it by 10. Now, when we times something by 10, all we've got to do is kind of move the decimal point forwards 1, okay? So at the moment it just says 734, but when I move the decimal point forward, all I do is add a 0. So my answer should be 7,340. Next one is 49 times 100. Now this time I've got to move my decimal point forward twice because I've got 2 zeros, okay? So my answer should be 4,900, okay? So make sure that's what you've got. Okay, on to the next one then. So it says simplify 24 over 36. So we've got to ask ourselves, what's the number, what kind of numbers go into these? Okay, so I think one of the easy, if they're both even numbers, let's start by dividing them both by 2. Let's halve both of them. So half of 24 is 12 and half of 36 is 18. But what I've still got here, I can still simplify this one. Now I could halve it again, or I could say, what's a higher number that goes into these? Now I could say, actually, 6 goes into these two, doesn't it? 6 goes into 12, and 6 goes into 18. So how many 6s go into 12? Well, 2. And how many 6s go into 18? 3. So that would be my final answer there, okay? Would be 2/3. Next one is 5 over 25. Now I can't go around halving this one because they're odd numbers, but I can quite easily tell myself that 5 goes into both of these. So if I just divide both of the top and the bottom by 5, I'm going to get my answer. So how many 5s go into 5? Well, only 1. And then how many 5s go into 25? Well, 5. So my final answer would be 1/5. Next one then. So here we've got find 50% of £520. Now 50% is the same as finding half of something. So all I've got to do is find half of £520. So half of 500 is 250 and then half of 20 is 10. So all I've got to do is add those two together. So I would get £260 is half of 520. Next one says find 25% of 580. Now actually 25% is half of 50%, which was half of 100%. So all I've got to do to find 25% is halve the number and then half it again. So let's find 50% first. So 50% of 580. So let's chunk it up. So 50% of 500 would be 250. And then 50% of 80 would be 40. So therefore, if you add those two together, you get your 290. Okay, so I've found half now of 580. But now to find 25%, just like I said at the beginning, you've got to half that number now, okay? So half of 200 is 100 and half of 90 is 45. So if I add those together, I get 145. And there's our answer, okay? So 25% of 580 is £145. Okay, so on to a little bit of rounding. So first of all, we want to round this number to the nearest 100. So we're going to go straight to my hundreds column here. So it says 4,700. So I know that that's the hundreds column. So now I need to think to myself, it's either going to be 4,700 or if the number next to it is higher than is 5 or higher, then it's going to go up to 4,800. Okay, so I found 4,789. 8 is 5 or above, so I'm going to have to round it up to 4,800. Okay. Now the next one says to the nearest 10. So I'm going to go to the tens column, which in this case is the 70. Okay, so we've got our thousands, then our hundreds, then our tens, then our units. So this time it's either going to be 8,670, or if the next number is 5 or above, it's going to be 8,680. But this time it's below 5, so it's number 1, so it's going to be 8,670. Okay, on to the next one then. So this one says 74 times 9. Okay, so we're going to do this nice and easy like we normally do. We're going to chunk it up, okay? So we're going to have 70 here, we're going to have 4 here, and we're going to have the 9 here. Oh, probably should have done that straight a line, but never mind. Okay, so we're going to do 9 times 70. Now, 9 times 7 is 63, and then I'm going to add the 0, okay? So I'm going to have 630, because that's 9 times 70. And then I'm going to do 9 times 4, which is 36. And then all I've got to do is add those together, okay? So I've got 630 plus 36, which equals 666. So there's our answer. Okay, so one more kind of timesing one. So we've got our 3 that's going to go here. Then we're going to split this up. So we've got a 400, we've got a 90, and we've got a 3. Okay, so we're going to times all of these by our 3. So what is 3 times 4? It's 12, and then I've got to add my 2 zeros. What's 3 times 9? Well, that's 27. So I'm going to write my 27 here. Then I'm going to add my missing 0. And then what's 3 times 3? Well, that's just the number 9. And then all I've got to do is add those together, and I've got my answer of 1,479. So 1,479. Okay, so we've run out of time on this video, so please pop to video number 2 to mark the rest of your answers.